I would like to think that that's an area where, because the set-top box's energy use itself is fairly small, but its ability to leverage the energy use of the rest of the home, that there's a great opportunity for us to be more useful and effective in this area.
Yeah, and I think to Ted's point that people save energy. Energy isn't saved. There are studies that have been done by ACEEE and others that show that just empowering consumers with information will allow them to reduce their energy use between 5 and 15%. So very, very important, very exciting area. David, for you, this return on investment, I'm intrigued by it. I think we all know that people aspirationally try to get to a number of those goals beyond the dollar goals that you now have codified and put forward. But I wonder what kind of challenges that presents, and if the people that you have to report to and have to have agree to these programs, whether that's the commission or the mayor, if they lower the return on investment expectation on the dollar side as you raise the return of investment on jobs or on class of customers, what's the challenge, what's the balance, and is it causing you problems in your programs?
Great question, Kateri. The cost effectiveness calculation is extremely complex and subject to a lot of inputs and assumptions and assumptions around the inputs, et cetera, that really isn't well understood outside the industry. So for the purposes of these discussions, when the utility has it inside the city, the main thing is that the program portfolio be cost effective, and that means a benefit cost ratio greater than 1. Now the question comes in, how much greater than 1? Right. And then we'll get input from various sources and various stakeholders in the process. And if it's too cost effective, if the return is 4 to 1 or 5 to 1, then stakeholders will come in and say, you're taking the low-hanging fruit and not going after the high-hanging fruit. So the way it works, and this is, to put it in words, and it's a whole different ballgame to translate it from words to numbers, but put it in words, is that you don't want it to be too cost-effective because there's things you could be accomplishing with that return that are in line with the policies you've adopted, policy goals, that you're not doing because you're just getting it all in terms of avoided future costs of generation, of transmission upgrades, of avoided carbon, the substation infrastructure, all that you're not having to do is giving a lot of net present value, dollars today. But you're hoarding it, basically, will be the way it's seen. On the flip side, if you run that return on investment, that benefit cost ratio all the way down to 1.0, at that point, you're reinvesting everything you're getting in future avoided costs in other things. And is that a problem? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Depends on the political environment at the time. If you're running it negative, that's a big problem. If you're running it, not negative, but if you're running it fractional, then it's backdoor tax. So you don't want to get into that territory. So with all that wrapped up in there, the challenges are explaining that in the political environment to get the decision made about how much is enough in the policy goals that are additive to the hard energy savings reductions.
Good. Yeah, if you want to make a comment, sure.
Yeah, just add something to that. I think it actually makes the conversation easier because different people respond to different things, and as long as it's cost effective enough, you can get the number crunchers on your side. But other people are going to respond to the jobs and economic stimulus. Right. Other people are going to respond to the social equity questions. Other people are going to respond to the 8 principles. I mean, there's a policy rationale for why there are all those 8 principles in the DWP programs. There's a political rationale for why there are those 8 principles in there as well. And I think, thankfully the politics and the policy are well matched when they often aren't. Yeah.
Well, we're always challenged with how do you make energy efficiency sexy? Because there's not a ribbon cutting ceremony like there is for a windmill or solar array. But I think that where you start to, quote, get to that sexiness is when you start talking about economic development opportunity and serving, serving underserved classes within a community, within a service territory, wherever you are. And that's when it really starts to resonate and have that broad appeal that you need to get things done. Questions from the audience for these folks? Back here, if you could please identify yourself when you ask the question, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning. Ingrid Brand from Southern California Edison. Question? I think I just turned. Oh,
no,
here we
there
go.
you go.
David, the question is about your reference to partnerships that can be replicated, that other cities are looking at, say Anaheim and Riverside that you mentioned. And given that the topic today for this panel is best practices in investing and modernization, can you give me a tangible example of one of those?
Sure, absolutely. The way we approached the gas company, little background, we serve the city of Los Angeles, city limits, a few other areas up north in the Owens Valley. The gas company serves all of the city. The gas company serves most of Southern California except Long Beach. So they serve all of our customers. We don't serve all of their customers, but they serve all of our customers. We had long wanted to do some joint programs with the gas company the same way that Edison does with the gas company. Primary benefit, customer facing, one-stop shop. All the measures in both gas and electric that the customer can take advantage of, they can get through one program, one rebate check, let the utilities do the accounting in the background. So we've long wanted to do that. What we did that was scalable, that's been scalable and replicable, that I see as a best practice, and it's bearing itself out with the other utilities adopting it, is a two-tier approach, a two-tier structure to this joint partnership. There's a master agreement, kind of like a master overall partnership, and then there's individual programs underneath it. And the master partnership establishes the entire sweep of everything we're thinking of doing, and all of the boilerplate type information, the lawyer language, the indemnification, severability, customer data confidentiality. It's all nailed down one time. That's the hard stuff. That's the hard stuff in doing joint utility programs where they work together. The key innovation was we put all that in a master agreement, and then the master agreement set the stage for individual scopes of work to be authorized underneath it, and rising to a lower level of approval requirement. So the master's done once, then the individual scopes just come through and we execute them. That's allowed us, so getting the master done, of course, that was challenging. It's just as challenging as doing any of the inter-utility agreements I did between Edison and the gas company, because it had the lawyer language, it had the customer data, it had all that. But it was one time. Then it gave us the authority to move forward with anything that fit that, and we've done 10 so far. So we made those as templates available to all the munis. The gas company has approached a number of municipal utilities, and they've got our forms and our agreements and our cost splits and our roles and responsibility splits. It's all transparent. Everything we do is subject to the California Public Records Act anyway. So we made it available, and they were able to take those and move quickly to adopt the same partnerships with SoCalGas that we have with SoCalGas.
Brilliant. I mean, really, truly. Hopefully, was it scalable to utilities outside this region? Because one of the most difficult segments of the utility industry to reach has been the small public powers and the rural electric co-ops. So is this something that could be used by folks outside of California?
I think so. I had done joint programs between Edison and DWP, Edison and SoCalGas, and they were challenging, but we certainly have them in place. And when I got to DWP, I heard there's a long history of trying to do it, and it just doesn't happen. They get to the altar, get left at the altar. What I found going through the entire process is, of course, it's challenging, as if it's easy, it already would have been done. But the POU and the IOU have their own little areas of concern that are complementary. In other words, there's things that the IOU is worried about that the POU isn't so much, so we let it go. There's things we're worried about that the IOU can go either way on, so we let it go. So that's actually smoothed the way in having these agreements going. When you have an IOU and an IOU, the same thing that makes this IOU paranoid makes this one paranoid, and you really get to loggerheads in trying to come to a resolution. in seeing that, we have our own issues, but our issues in a lot of ways were different than the gas companies, we were able to overcome that and move things a lot quicker. So by extension, I would think where you have these smaller rural co-ops or small municipal utilities, you generally have an overlapping in the other fuel utility.
It's an investor.
It's generally an investor-owned. So I think there's a lot of potential in that market for investor-owned and publicly owned utilities to do this kind of joint work.
Good. Great. Other questions? This lady right here.
Sure. Hi, my name is Felicia Williams. I'm from Edison International, and I'm a Pasadena Water and Power customer, and I know that Pasadena Water and Power has had some challenges meeting their energy efficiency goals. So I'm wondering what Los Angeles's 10% energy efficiency goal programs look like. Is there an incentive portion? Is there a rebate portion? And most importantly, are there any changes to the tiered rate structure to disincentivize use as well? Thanks.
Well, the 10% is a goal to reduce overall consumption by 2020 by 10%, and so that quantifies into a kWh number. And we back that into our annual goals such that they add up by 2020 to 10%. So it's about 300 million kilowatt hours a year is our target between here and 2020 to make that goal. To achieve the 300 million, then it's the same as what you have at Edison, where you've got a goal of X amount of million kilowatt hours. These are the programs you're going to use to get to them. The programs are a mix of incentive programs, rebate programs, and direct install programs, with support from non-resource programs like technical assistance, audits, and other things like that. So it's a whole suite of the whole suite of offerings and services that are targeted to overcome customers' market barriers, not just capital costs. That's where the incentives and rebates come in, but awareness and knowledge. Awareness that they even have opportunity, and knowledge, technical knowledge, specific technical knowledge about how to, what to do with that opportunity. What are the measures? What will they save? What do they cost? What's the difference? What's the return on investment? Those we also offer through our programs, and the combined package is how we get to that 300 million kilowatt hours, which then, if we do it year in, year out till 2020, hits the 10%. Now, as far as tiered rates, we do have tiered rates on the with our electric rates, but I'm not terribly versed in them, to be honest with you, except to be able to tell you we have them. We are also going for a rate increase soon, and that obviously will affect what those tiers are. But we do have that. We do use a tiered rate approach to send a signal to customers that hopefully they read and can see to reduce their usage to get to a lower tier.
So unfortunately, the time just flies when it's a good conversation, but I want to give Ted and Stephen both a chance for any last comments or words. And if you have none, maybe answer a question I have, which is, what do you see as the biggest challenge you face right now in driving energy efficiency, whether it's in the city or it's in your own company?
Well, I think our challenge is to maintain the coalition of support that's been instrumental in supporting DWP's sort of jump in with 2 feet approach to energy efficiency. For those of you who know the history of it, the department would start efficiency programs and then stop them and then start them again and then stop them, and then they'd run out of money and then nobody would do them, and then they'd start them and then you didn't know that they were around. And so I think we have some continuity here that we need to continue, and I just want to close because I know a number of you follow this. There's a leadership change at the department, and I just want folks to remember that every general manager of every department and proprietary in the city of LA, which is 38 departments, the mayor spent a full 25% of his first month interviewing, evaluating each and every general manager on 4 criteria. And these are the 4 criteria that are going to drive what we'd like to see in a new general manager. And they are customer service, data-driven culture of innovation. How do you use data to make decisions and to innovate? Fiscal responsibility and sustainability are the 4 core values that we look for in any leader. So with those kinds of sort of criteria that you're looking for, I'm pretty confident that energy efficiency is going to survive.
Good. Music to my ears. Stephen?
And mine.
I think a challenge for a company like DirecTV, we have just lots of ideas, a great number of people that would like to work with us. We are a nationwide service, and we are able to actually do things exceedingly efficiently because of that nationwide reach. We're able to implement a new feature, and everybody in the country gets to see it at the same time. On the back end, if we're working with an energy efficiency program or utility, and there are literally thousands across the country, and every one of them has their own special needs and their own higher powers that they're reporting to, and different criteria that needs to be met. For us, it's a challenge to try and put something together that we can then promote and use and exploit at a nationwide level. So that's I know it's not something that this community can fix overnight, but that is a significant impediment for the kinds of things that we're doing being able to be done everywhere. So. Right. I mean, just an example, so if you come up with a program where, our installer is perhaps installing an advanced power strip or something that could then allow better energy use for the entertainment center, the PC, well, that's something that we could do in one small region of the country, but not in the rest of the country. We have sort of national, installer training. We have national programs. So the incentives are on a national basis, and so we struggle to crack that nut.
And we hear it from the other side as well. Small utilities that want rebate programs from working with Sears or with Target or Walmart, and they don't have a large enough, they're like, Walmart will say, well, how many stores can I put this in? Well, it's one. So I think, we can work on that together. I think talking and figuring out how you build partnerships and how you build out that level of interest, much as David did with with SoCal Gas and then on to the other smaller utilities. I think we can get there. I was told that it wasn't really time to stop, even though I saw the stop sign, that there's one gentleman that has a question, and we're going to take that before we go to break.
Yes, thank you. My name is Frank Montes, and I'm a board member with the Greater Riverside Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, California Small Business Association, and a member of the LA Metro Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and a small business owner myself. And as an advocate for small business throughout the state of California, as we go up and down the state and tell small businesses to participate in energy efficiency and get their buy-in, we're trying to get the information out there as much as we can. But my question is for Ted. As I was walking out the room, I heard court enforcement, which for small business, we don't want to hear that. So can you elaborate a little bit more what you mean about getting code enforcement to enforce some of these regulations? Because if I go to my members and tell them that, the last thing they're going to want to do is participate in anything about that with the challenges that small businesses have right now in the state of California.
That's a really good question. Thank you for raising it. And when I say code enforcement, I'm talking in this context about energy code enforcement in construction. So I'm not talking about coming by to a small business and seeing if the duct is leaking, if you are, or that range hood is, consuming too much energy. Or I'm particularly talking about when you're going to expand your business and there's going to be an energy impact to that. How does the building department deal with the energy code? And I think what we find across California is that the building departments are very, very, very inconsistent. And I know business hates inconsistency. You got to know what you're going to, what kind of reception you're going to get when you walk into the building department. And so I think, sort of providing that transparency, predictability is going to, help folks not go, oh, I don't want to expand because I don't want to touch the building department, as well as help us get to our energy goals and to ensure that all this work on energy code is really gets the savings that we're hoping, and they're savings that as we develop the building code are supposed to be cost effective.
Right.
That's a test that we make.
That's a key point. I think the building codes kick in when it's 50%. 50% or more renovation, addition on, or and the codes are applicable to the builder. And so you as the tenant or the owner of that new building are going to see reduced energy bills. So it actually, there's been a lot of work done on this and a lot of modeling that show that these building energy codes, particularly the one that's in force in California, save much more than the original investment. And the payback period is, I think it's is it 4 years out here? Something like that. It models out, we can get you some. But this is to the small business owner's benefit to have these building energy codes, not their detriment, thing they're going to get slapped around for.
But not punitive. I mean, it's
Right.
not trying to go out and it's not about code violation correction of somebody who's just minding their own business. That's
right. Okay, good. Well, let's say thank you again to our panelists. You all were terrific. We're going to take a 10-minute break. I wouldn't dare not call a break when it's on the schedule this time, and then we'll reconvene.